It is week number 10 of Let's Chat with Kat and Pat. 10 weeks in, Katrina.
Mm-hmm. Double digits.
Double digits. Like the joke I made off the air, it's been more consistent than our sex life.
Mm-hmm. This is scheduled.
It is scheduled. And I gotta say, you're the girl that said early on, if we're not having sex at least a few times a week, we're doing it wrong. And you lived up to that for like the first few years. But what's up? Is it me?
We've had 2 jobs each.
Yep.
3 kids, 3 different schedules. Parents, your ex-wife. Nothing goes as planned. We've been fitting extra stuff in every single day. And Lord knows we're exhausted.
Yeah, you sound it right now. Like you're here to record a podcast. People tune in, they listen, and you're like, I'm just over here fading away.
Well, I mean, it took me 3 times getting on the treadmill just to get my hour workout in, and then I drove 150 miles round trip to work today.
Listen.
And booked a showing and did stuff for my second job, too.
It's hard. I mean, I worked all day, too, and then I came home and immediately left to bring Connor to Civil Air Patrol, then came home and fought with technology because the fucking computer wouldn't work the way it was supposed to work, so we could start recording this a half an hour ago because I'm on a fixed amount of time before I've got to leave again to go pick him up.
Well, and before I left to drive my 150 miles round trip, dishwasher got started, dryer got started, dinner got put in a casserole dish, which I am like starting to sound like an 80s housewife with the casseroles. But it's like saving my life to get dinner on the table, to then come home, preheat the oven, fold what's in the dryer, put away, set out the table. Everything's ready for work and school tomorrow.
Right, but you're going to set up the table so you can eat dinner alone.
And then you can eat dinner with Connor. It's stages, but everybody's fed. It didn't cost extra money.
I love that he's into Civil Air Patrol. It's been good for him. I think it's had a positive effect on every aspect of his life, physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. And he's got goals that are associated with it, which is awesome to hear him talk about. But it's a major pain in the ass.
It's a really long day.
It's a long day. And the kick in the balls is that there's another platoon 2 miles down the road.
But it's not on our night.
It's not on our night, and we can't rely on Mom to get him there consistently. So
we're just doing the right thing.
It's
hard.
hard.
It is. We're just going to be tired.
Yep. Well, speaking of doing the right thing, I'm a little angry. I mean, tomorrow night it sucks because your son decides that that's the night that he's going to come over. But it's also Connor's last night here, and I promised him he'd get a haircut. So that means I got to get out of work, pick him up, go back to where I came from to get him a haircut, to come home to play, Mr. Friendly Stepdad. But in the meantime, in the back of my head, all I'm going to be thinking about is I've got to get packed and get to bed because my alarm clock's going off at 3:30 a.m. the next day so I can fly to Bentonville, Arkansas in the middle of a snowstorm, probably get stuck there, but hopefully I won't, so I can come home. It's just like my head is spinning trying to keep up with the things that we are committed to doing. So I had a thought on the car ride home today.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have Connor this weekend.
I had no good thoughts on the car ride home today, so
I'm glad you had no good thoughts. So as of right now, we don't have Connor this weekend. Mm-hmm. And his mom did say that she would take him to his flying thing that he's got to do on Saturday, right? So if that all happens and Mom doesn't drop the ball, which
pending no last minute call Saturday morning.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Mom doesn't drop the ball, and I'm not counting on that. I'm trying to be optimistic here.
Upbeat.
Does that mean, and Heather is going away this weekend. I don't think you've got plans with Ben and Michelle. Mm-hmm. There's a 50% chance that Eric comes up this weekend. But do we have control over our weekend time this weekend?
I am certainly hoping so.
I mean, God knows we've got enough work to do. You've got the tiling to do.
I got a tile in the bathroom.
I've got mountains of work outside to do.
The yard work. I could easily fill up that truck with a dump run, but it would be kind of cathartic to be able to get some of those things done with whatever, like podcasts, music, Hallmark all day for me, whatever we want to do, and just call it a day.
Well, it's still exhausting physical hard work that needs to get done.
But it's mindless.
It's mindless, and the problem is we enjoy being social. We enjoy having friends. We enjoy having stuff on the calendar and things to do and places to go. But we also are sort of anal when it comes to the things that need to get done around here, right? So, like, it's April, and I know we have snow in the forecast, but it's now April. And the backyard, we've got an acre of land. It's all fenced in. We've got a pool. I'm trying to restart the garden. And I've got mountains of leaves and mountains of frickin' pine cones that are, I swear, pine cones are God's way of saying fuck you to me all winter long. Every pine cone in our town has made its way into our yard, and I am not the lazy neighbor.
I think a few just fell.
I'm sure. I'm sorry, God, but it is what it is. I mean, he's clearly showing his power through the pine cones. There's
you know what? They do look like little poops. Maybe he's shitting on you.
Maybe he is. And you know what? It wouldn't be a shocker. I probably deserve it. But it's like, I'm not the lazy neighbor. All winter, when there hasn't been snow on the ground, I've been out there with the leaf blower. And thank you once again for talking me into buying the more expensive backpack one.
Well, and can I just say with the more expensive backpack one, as I walked Corey tonight while you were dropping Connor off at Civil Air Patrol, 2 of our neighbors have now gotten the same leaf blower. So, like, we're trend setting with the leaf blower in the neighborhood.
God bless them. They've got the time to use it on a Monday. Like, I can't imagine
Well,
the
their
time
kids
to
are
use
older.
it.
They're not driving to extracurricular activities. You could have come home at 5:30, put the leaf blower on for a half hour like that guy did. His kids are old.
You would have got mad at me for not coming in and, having a check-in with you and seeing what was going on.
I needed to check out houses and send them to, after my full-time job ended, I needed to go and do that.
No. So wait a minute. So, in other words, when I get home from work, if you've got things to do, I'm an asshole if I get mad at you because you've got no time to give me.
Well, it's like Monday and Tuesday are my 2 worst days, and those happen to be the days that we have Connor. By Wednesday, Thursday, I'm like, screw it. Like, are we going out to eat? Is it half-off bottle of wine somewhere?
Yeah, it's
like,
not going to happen.
How are we just, rejoicing in the 2 nights off that we have?
It's not going to happen this Thursday.
No, it's not.
Do you know why?
Do you have another board meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good God.
I know. Hey,
well, you know what? Maybe that's the night I can try and tile and watch Jersey Shore.
Well, what was your reason? Because you had a reaction. Are you not here? Like, what's your Thursday?
Well, my Thursday, I have to go back to the 150-mile round trip and work in Western Mass.
I mean, my Thursday is only my Thursday, meaning I've only got that meeting if I actually make it home from Bentonville, Arkansas. But every time I turn on the radio, turn on the TV, go to the internet.
Well, this is if we're not shoveling.
I'm hearing the words long duration storm that start Tuesday night and goes through Thursday. Now, we're in that little weird area where they're saying 5 or 6 inches of snow, but we're going to get mountains of rain and ice on top of it, which is worst case scenario. Means I'm not getting home and means you're losing power. I'm not here to deal with the generator. Like, it's going to be a shit show.
You know what we never even considered? That those are Anne's days and Connor might just stay.
No, she won't. She would come hell or high water to get him away from us. Now, she won't go through hell or high water to get him to the places he needs to go.
School,
school.
Extracurricular activities,
No, he can stay at home in his pajamas.
All right, so that's one equation we can take off our...
Yeah, I don't think we've got to worry about that too much, but in a best case scenario, if I have to miss my trip, that's fine. I can reschedule it. It's not like the buyers at Walmart are going to give me a hard time if I email them Wednesday morning and say my flight was canceled. Can we reschedule? My fear is that I'm going to get out and I'm just not.
And then you're not going to
back.
get home till Friday.
Right.
But you could miss the board meeting.
I could miss the board meeting. They'll probably have me come on in virtually, because they need to have enough people to vote. A quorum for the voting.
I thought these were supposed to be every 6 weeks. Didn't you just have one?
No, they're supposed to be every month.
Okay.
But the new president said that last year's board dropped the ball so much that he wants to do them every 2 weeks until we've cleaned up the mess. And this is not something that...
It's a volunteer job with a capital V.
It is. And I'm doing it for the right reasons. I love the program. It's done wonders for Connor, and I want to see it continue to do the right things. I just think that there's a little bit of overkill right now with the every other week board meetings and the group chat that if I don't turn my sound off on my phone, it is ding, ding, ding. And I think to myself...
did it go off at 1:30 this morning?
It did. Like, what are these people doing? Why aren't they working? Why aren't they sleeping? Why are we worrying about this all day long?
They're not divorced yet.
If this keeps up, they're going to get there soon, because the dinging at 1:30 in the morning is not conducive to a happy marriage. But it is week number 10 of Let's Chat with Kat and Pat. We got off on a little tangent there, but We did want to talk about. We had a great day yesterday. We had a really good Easter,
Hmm.
um, and
We hosted. The house is still clean. Yay.
we hosted. The house is still clean. People were here, and people had a good time. Everybody had a smile on their face, and I think the key reason for that is we didn't have our families here. We went a
Yes.
different route this year.
Yeah, we went divorce, blended families invites divorced, blended families. And how do we make the most of, those of you that are divorced, it's always tough with the holidays because they're split. It's 50-50. Do you have them? Do you not have them? The holiday's never quite the same. Then as your kids get older, then it's a whole other transition of different and uncomfortable. And then as family members have faded or family members get
When you say
pissy,
faded, do you mean died, or they're physically really unable to commit to doing this stuff?
I'd say both.
Both, because that's where we're at right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, because your mom was unwilling, my dad was unwilling, the rest of our parents are dead,
And our
and our
sisters won't answer
sisters
our
don't
calls.
talk to us. So what we have left is the friends that we consider family.
Yep.
And what works out great is the friends that we consider family that are also divorced because they're looking to like, how do I fill this? How do you get that together? And so we've kind of recreated our mantra for how we're going to celebrate holidays.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. It worked out really well yesterday. We're very lucky that when we first started hanging out with Heather and AJ, that we're very compatible with them.
Hmm.
We've got a lot in common, and we've all been through a lot of similar situations in life, whether it's the failed marriages or parents with different quirks and things like that. But everybody sort of understands where the other person is coming
Both
from.
people working in the house, having to co-parent, surviving divorce, like
Kids
all
all
of
have
it.
quirks, and,
Yeah.
we're all
DIY
self-conscious.
projects up to the yin yang.
Yeah, we're all self-conscious about our kids' quirks, but because they deal with kids with quirks, their whole attitude about our kid with a quirk is like, no, believe me, our kids are just as
They're all same age.
yeah.
They're
So it
all
worked out well,
boys. It was great.
and they all did surprisingly well together yesterday for the most part. They lasted close to 3 hours before they all resorted to the communication halted, and they sat on the couch with their phones.
I'm going to take as a huge win because I had games, I had activities. Like, how do we get them engaged? 3 successful hours, just about as long as my after school program runs for my full-time job. I was able to keep 4 essentially teenagers occupied.
Yeah, without their phones in their hand. And then by the time they were all ready for their phones, we were ready for them to use their phones.
Yes, yeah.
And they did it the right way. They sat on the couch
They
together.
all sat together, unified front of technology of the cell phone.
And
It
they
was
were
great.
so quiet because they were so dialed into their phones, all doing something individual. I'm sure every phone was on something more unique than the other phone, but it didn't matter. They were in the same room doing it together on their phones. So is this what, if we don't travel for a holiday, is this what you're sort of thinking is what you want to do?
Yeah, I want to find friends that we just become like a friends holiday. I can't say Friendsgiving because that's just like one time a year, but I do think we need to coin it. We need to come up with some type of a term. But I do think it's like a pick your family day on the holiday.
Well, we've already been doing it for a couple years now for Thanksgiving.
It's
Yeah.
been wonderful.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what piloted the thought on like, well, Christmas was what it was.
And Christmas is always going to be like that, I
Yeah.
feel like, because I don't know what their Christmas is like, but to get another family to commit to Christmas is hard.
It is. It's really tough. So Christmas has always went well. We spent New Year's with them. They didn't have their kids. We had Connor. That went well.
Yeah, it did.
Connor really got to talk about all his cooking and different stuff like that. So that was wonderful. And that was almost kind of like a practice run for Easter, being the next holiday to kind of have an event. It was wonderful. So,
And the best part about this for me is that you've been here for 4+ years now, but living here for about 4 years. And Connor's quirks, his struggles, and the things that really, people might have a hard time with him because of these quirks sometimes. But watching him start to outgrow them, and even when he's uncomfortable, sort of man up a little bit.
oh, he's leaning into them and like, all right, like let's push the uncomfortableness to learn something.
Yeah.
I've really appreciated him taking that feedback and taking it
Yeah,
seriously.
so it's made life easier because he's gotten better at least hiding the quirks or putting them in the back pocket for a
Hmm.
little while. He said something to me last night after you went downstairs to shower, and he said, I've never heard this term before, but he said that he was socially exhausted, and he wasn't trying to be funny. He was dead serious.
Hmm.
It's I can't imagine what it feels like for somebody like him, mildly on the spectrum, would rather be, in a make pretend world online or be by himself than be around a bunch of people. It's not comfortable for him. He thinks about the things he's going to say before he says them. Conversations don't come quite as free flowing and naturally to him as
Hmm.
they do to a lot of people. So I felt a certain amount of empathy for him last night, and I just told him I was proud of him.
Yeah, he did great.
But he's going to have to learn to be like that more consistently as he gets older, because unfortunately for him, as he starts to get to high school age and eventually working
Right.
age,
But I
this is
mean,
good practice for all of that.
he's willing and he's putting the effort in. So
Yeah.
let's take the win while we can.
So this is what we're doing now, and I can't imagine that we are alone in this sort of world where family is, whether they're alive, dead, or disinterested in being with you. uh,
Or maybe they have opinions on your divorce and it is what it is. This is where your life is.
but nobody wants to be alone on a holiday.
Well, and I've definitely had my fair share of alone holidays.
I know. What'd you do the Christmas before you met me?
I sat at home, made myself a really good meal, and watched Hallmark all day by myself.
By yourself. Meanwhile, your father is alive, your sisters are alive and well,
Hmm.
and were they all together that Christmas, and you just weren't there?
Yeah,
See, that has got to hurt even more.
yeah, it's a nice little kick to.
Like, it's bad enough to be alone, but then to be alone knowing that they were all together, you know, it, I could never.
Well,
If
and part of the issue for that year is I don't know if I was invited or like loosely invited, but I was still working retail, so I had to go to work the next day, and I had my son on Christmas Eve, so Christmas Day, 100% by myself. But I also had a roommate, and I was still 100% by myself. No, I did not get invited to what her and her boyfriend were doing.
So, I totally get this plan. I was a little skeptical of it at first because I've never really done that outside of Thanksgiving.
Well, yeah, you met me in the process of being divorced, so you never had to do a holiday by yourself. But I've probably done like a dozen holidays alone because it's tough when you're the divorced mom and you don't have your kids. It's a little awkward to get invited somewhere to go for a holiday when you're not bringing a child. And then if you don't have other single people, or you have single people, but they're usually 10, 15 years younger than you, but then they're still really close with their family. So then it looks weird when they're like 28 and you're like 38 and getting invited to their holiday. So, like, what do? You just be the miserable person who sits at home alone. Now, for many years, I had a dog who was at least my companion and would get up on the table and he had his little placemat and he would have, the holidays with me. And he did Thanksgiving with me, and then he died the morning of Black Friday, and I still went to work.
Did he overeat on Thanksgiving? Do you think that's what did him in?
Well, he was 16.
No, I know he's an old little guy, but
He wasn't doing well. No, because he just had some turkey and some sweet potato, and at that point we were on I needed to make him all his own food diet, so it was like usually chicken, rice, sweet potato, peas, like those things were approved.
But he had a really great last meal. If you're saying Thanksgiving was his last meal and then he died,
Oh, he like literally sat on the table. He had his little Thanksgiving sweater. We were all happy. He was like leaping off the deck stair to go like pee in the backyard. Like we had a great day. We had a great night. We snuggled up and started watching Christmas movies that night. And then my alarm went off at 4 a.m. for Black Friday. We got up. He looked at me very angrily. And then I took him downstairs. He went out. He did his business. He stayed down there. Well, I went upstairs to go get ready, 26 stairs. That was a little too much for him at, 4:10, 4:15 in the morning.
sure.
Come downstairs, and there's blood coming out of his ears, and he's passed away underneath the dining room table.
Like, it's terrible. It's a
Mm-hmm.
terrible thing. But if we can alleviate some of the losses by hanging out with new people,
But I was so happy that he at least made it through Thanksgiving with me.
it's
I
a bit-
didn't do Thanksgiving alone. He made it through Thanksgiving with me.
You know what's funny though? Then like Christmas sucked. It is what it is. But we didn't get people here. The kids weren't really interested
Yeah.
until later in the day. So you complained about we hadn't spent time hanging the TV, so I said, let's hang TVs. I'm better than a dog. I am. You're in love
Mm-hmm.
with me, and he got so pissed.
Well, you didn't measure the freaking TVs to see if they were going to fit. So it's not just one TV for another TV. It's ring around the rosy of all the TVs in the house.
You just get so pissed, and I'm like, well, we're spending time together. You're not alone on a holiday. Let's hang some TVs.
Okay. Do we want to talk about what Christmas Eve was like the day before?
No, I really don't want to rehash that because
Okay.
that's good content for another episode of this. Okay.
Because not like Christmas Eve was like fantastic. And so then here we is Christmas Day. All right. So if the kids aren't going to be here, let's at least take it as the day off to relax. And we're just going to swap two TVs, easy peasy. Well, we didn't measure. And then it was, three TVs moving, like 55-inch, a 65-inch,
And a 50-inch.
And a 50-inch.
Yep.
So it's not like they're little. Like they're the size of me. The 55-inch is as tall as I am.
It is. And the 65 is a little bit old, so it's not exactly light.
Oh, no. It's one of the, like, plasmas.
It's a little heavy.
It's the cream of the crop of the TV, but it's not light.
I mean, technically speaking, we've got 3D glasses for it. It's got.
Oh, yeah. We got it all out.
Everything will work on it, but it's a older technology TV, and the look on your face as the sweat is coming down, and it's Christmas morning. Like I fucked up here, guys.
Like this is not what I signed up for.
Not going
now, on the
well.
upside, you got it free from some guy on Facebook Marketplace.
That's
so
correct.
We didn't pay for it.
Well, I was looking for a TV for Caitlin's room just so when she came over.
The facade is her room is in great shape. Yeah.
Exactly. It didn't have to be a great TV. I just didn't want to spend all kinds of money on it. But I didn't like the idea of like the 19-inch flat screen TV that my mom gave me 10 years ago, with barely works being her TV. Because how can I say, come over, spend all the time here that you want, and then not have a working, functional TV on the wall?
So, for the record, I don't want to be by myself on the holidays. I'd like to include more people that I enjoy to live through the holidays. In the event that it's just you and me, could we not do any home projects that
Sure.
day?
Just do me one favor. Don't bust my balls or make that suggestion, making the mistake that you make. Your mistake, your fatal flaw, and you don't have a lot of them. Your big fatal flaw, honey, is you think you've got this really compressed timeline in your mind when it comes to home projects.
Well, this house is like...
You're like, don't worry about it. It'll take an hour. No,
everywhere
4
else
weekends later.
Everywhere else I have lived, I have done a DIY project. It has been realistic. I've been able to get it completed. This house is like the money pit, where you go to start something and it leads to like 6 other issues before you can actually complete that project.
But you know this, and you still have these...
So now I have started the year on... I'd like to do this, but have I started retiling the tiles in the bathroom that was part of the $53,000 renovation we did 3 years ago that already needs something updated because it's falling apart?
But that has nothing to do with this house.
No, but I also, normally I'd start that and think, I could be done in like an hour or so. I haven't started it yet because I don't have 4 hours.
There is no hour.
I haven't found 4 hours to get it started yet.
But there is no DIY project worth doing that takes an hour. Like, there isn't one. Unless you're coloring in a crayon coloring book. That's it. Like, there's nothing that takes an hour. I swear, like, when we were trying to paint the side of the shed last year, you're like, we're just going to scrape it. It'll take an hour. No way. You need to get...
Well, of course, that was the one day that it was sunny, 80 degrees and beating on you all summer long.
Yeah.
Was the day we decided to scrape the side of the garage. Then it rained every other weekend, and the pool wasn't even up yet.
Right. Just nothing takes an hour. That's all I'm saying. But holidays are difficult for me as well. I don't have my mom has been 50-50 as far as being a part of them over like the last 10 years. And then when I was younger and before my parents got divorced, my mom was still 50-50. The 50-50 was a little bit different. It wasn't, was she going to come over? It was she going to get out of bed to come join us for Christmas or for Easter? You got people that have mental illness, and that's what they were like growing up. So I like the idea of having people excited to be here. And I'm so wired to think negatively about it that what did I ask you? Like the day before and then the morning of, I'm like, have you heard from them? Are you sure they're coming? Like,
yeah, are they going to actually show up? And I was like, they're not our family.
But
if they've committed, they're coming.
But you understand where that
absolutely.
Trepidation comes from.
100%. But like, yeah, no, and And in their defense, if they tell their children this is the plan, they're not going to disappoint them. It's come hell or high water. We're finding a way to get there. If it's snowing, we're still getting there. If it's raining like a mofo, we're still getting there. And that's the same way we are. We say we're going to show up, we show up. We got invited to a party. What was that, last weekend?
Yeah, Jeff's house.
And it was horrible weather that day. We're driving in,
It was sleet, snow, ice.
Hail.
Yep.
It's like 12 miles down the road, but it's 12 miles like into the deep woods of New Hampshire with no street lights. You can't, all the turns are curvy. You have no idea where you're going. You're hoping and praying it's going okay. I decided not to drink so that we could be even safer driving home, which I don't even know that was I missed the turn because I couldn't see.
You couldn't see. Yeah, it was a rough drive.
It was a rough drive, but we said we were going and we went.
We did, and that's what we do. Because
that's what we did. You got to show up.
That's how we're wired.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad you had a good Easter. I was concerned from moment one. It's a bad holiday. It was a bad day for you. It brings back a lot of stuff for you, and the anniversary of stuff for you happened to fall on Easter. So there was like multiple opportunities for it to go horribly wrong.
And I was just like, how can I try to make this as positive and as moving forward as possible? And I had a huge win.
So Easter was a win. So the next big holiday is what?
Well, we have Memorial Day.
Those aren't big holidays.
We usually do yard work, 4th of July.
It's not a big holiday. It's not
Yeah.
like it's not a big
we have
holiday.
Mother's Day, my birthday, Father's Day. I mean, those things are always interesting.
Yeah, they're fine. Like those ones aren't big holidays. I feel like, so now
So then it's Thanksgiving. We already have our plans.
Right. So now are you going to invite Heather over for Christmas now? Is that what's going to happen? Are you going to say, let's do Christmas together?
Well, if she has the kids, like, why not?
Well, I'm happy to. I'm happy to. But I feel like you need to get on that.
Well, I was already planting the seeds for all the games on how I can outsmart the children on the saran wrap ball because that was an epic fail yesterday. But how can I think of other teenage-focused games and lean into social media on some of those suggestions that they have so that we can kind of relive that again?
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. And, I don't know what their Christmas is like or what their plans are, but we'll get there.
I mean, and the Celtics always play, so
they do.
That's always helpful, too.
Because they're an excellent basketball team, and the NBA likes to highlight their top 4 or 5 teams.
And we get to wear our green shirts. We're festive, supporting the Celtics.
And chances are we're going to run into my ex-wife the night before anyway, so...
Well, I mean...
It happens every year.
So we're going to make it a year 4 this year?
It's unbelievable.
I mean, we need to find a new routine.
It's unbelievable. Like, unbelievable that she has now decided to make my spot, the place that I grew up going to, that she despised. She didn't like it. She didn't think it was good. She didn't like the atmosphere.
Well, the kids want to go, and the kids can't go with us, so the kids are going, except for this year when that happened, your mom was in the hospital. So, of course, we were going to be there.
Yeah, because it's right down the street from the hospital, and it's an hour away from us. So we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, visit my mom, make sure she's okay on Christmas Eve, and then go try and have a decent, dinner. And it sounds so classy, I know, but play some Keno at the bar at Kowloon.
Play some Keno, have some bad Chinese food, have a drink. It's not like it's easy to see a parent in the hospital. It wasn't an easy day.
And then, I see my daughter walk in.
We're looking for 45 minutes of solace, and we can't even enjoy bad food and play Keno in private.
And this restaurant is easily an hour away from where we live, where she lives. It's not like it's a local...
It's a one-way. It's not like it's easy. Like, you got to go and do all these, what are they called, clovers
it's
to
in
get
a different
there?
state. Like, this is not a local place where you might accidentally run into one another. This place is far away. It is not a local establishment.
Like 30, 40 Chinese food restaurants passed on the way there.
Yeah, and some of them are spectacular.
Yeah.
I have got an emotional attachment to this place in particular. Like,
you grew up there.
I grew up there. Yeah, I had all my grade school dances were there. My high school graduation party was there. Like, birthdays were there.
I'm sorry, your church is there.
My church is there.
I mean, last year we didn't go to church because we went to the hospital, but the year before...
You go to church, then you go to
We went to church, and then we go there.
That's it. And that church is attached to the same school that I went to, kindergarten through 8th grade. Like, it's my place.
Which, by the way, is across the street from the church that my grandpa used to be a minister on, so another misconnection.
Misconnection right there, hearkening back to last week's show. Before we get out of here on a good note, because... Easter did go well. We do want to thank you, Katrina, our fabulous host yesterday, as well as Heather, because she brought a ton of food. And you guys together were a great team. But last week I came home from work and I wanted to play audio for you from the Kirk Minihane show. And you know that when I worked at EEI, Kirk was the big star there. He was part of the morning show. And he said the podcast came up because Mike Manansky, who I also worked with at EEI. Matter of fact, I worked with Mike Manansky at 890 ESPN in New Hampshire, and then he was hosting the
Was
late
that
night
the one
show.
in downtown Nashua,
Yes.
across from my favorite bar where I was all the time?
Yeah, and I used to work there. Yeah, right there.
Across the street.
I used to do live shows across the street at the bar.
Across the street, I could have waved.
Yeah, you could have waved.
Maybe I parked.
Maybe you did.
Maybe you checked me out as I was walking across the street and
Probably
running.
did. Probably did.
Yeah.
Thinking I'm a big shot.
Yeah.
With my headphones on and my microphone. Another misconnection. But we do. So Mike Manansky is now a part of that show. And Mike said, hey, I found this great podcast with an old colleague of ours. And he says, let's chat with Cat and Pat. And Kirk pretended not to remember who I was. Now, I'm not saying Kirk and I were close because we were not close. But we got into it quite a few times because I would come in and do the late night show and purposely say things to sort of get their attention in the morning. So Kirk would always have this mentality that it shouldn't be all sports, even though the name of the station was Sports Radio WEI. When I'm doing late night, I want to do 98% sports. I did a whole 4 hours on addiction and had addiction specialists in when the Patriots brought in Antonio Brown. Like, I will go other places with it, but it's got to tie back into sports. Kirk didn't believe that, and he was wildly successful. But I would say things to sort of needle him, and then they'd use that sound the next day, and it would get me more exposure because more
They'd
people
be making
listen.
fun of you.
Right. So
My favorite pastime, we'd probably get along.
So one night I come to work an hour and a half after. We're going to bookend this show with dogs dying.
Yeah.
Okay? So I come into work an hour and a half after my 14-year-old dog dies. And
Please note, millennials, if you're listening, our dogs, members of our family, passed away.
We went to
and
work.
we went to work.
I went to work. There's nothing you can do about it. Sitting at home and crying doesn't help. Going on the radio and crying apparently doesn't help either because
Well, I mean,
so I go in, I tell the story, and whatever.
I gotta agree. A little bit of the dog, and no pun intended, that he was giving you was pretty good.
It was good.
It was awesome.
Well,
I was laughing.
But that's why he's good. That's why I played it for you. I wanted you to laugh. Like Kirk, there's a reason why Kirk was wildly successful at EEI and then was able to transition over to podcast format, working with Barstool, and be wildly successful. He sells out arenas. He sold out the Wilbur last year for 2 shows. He just did a live show in Portland, Maine, sold that out. People come from all over to see this crazy fucker do crazy things, but he's brilliant at what he does. So I have nothing against that. And I had thick enough skin to take it. Like, I wanted more.
Yeah.
But he claimed he didn't remember who I was, and then I played for you this sort of montage opening they did their show, where he did readings from the Bible, essentially, like making fun of what I was saying about my dog, and then playing taps behind it. So Kirk remembers who I am. There was a bit of conversation on their show because he's got a network of shows. Now, we don't really fit in that network.
It's not our niche.
It's a little animalistic. There's people from all walks of life.
We're talking about animals today.
But I think if that opportunity is real and it presents itself again, I think it's something worth talking about. Even to be mildly associated on the fringes with Kirk and with Barstool, it can't hurt us. And I feel like it's going to open this up to a whole new audience. And I am the Barstool audience. It is, guys, 38 to 54 years old.
Patrick Gilroy, full of himself, right here.
No,
here we go.
no, I'm the Barstool audience. I'm their target audience. They don't. They like teenagers.
Oh, target audience, not all about you.
No,
okay,
no, not all about
that.
me at all. I do have an ego, but I try to hide it with you. No,
really?
I'm their target audience because I'm at a certain age. I have a certain income. And yes, they made fun of me selling lollipops. It's been very good to me.
Hey, you know what? I'm not going to complain. That's been super successful for
Candy
us.
is recession-proof, Kirk. But, if there's a real opportunity to join that network, I say we give it a whirl. We try it because to be mildly associated with a brand like Kirk and a brand like Barstool, why the hell not? It's got nothing but potential positives for us. And if it doesn't work out, or if we get, buried, people make fun of us, fine. But I feel like...
it won't be the first time.
No, it won't be, I have thick skin, as you know. But I feel like if I am the target audience, then there's got to be plenty of dudes out there like me that have been divorced, that are paying out the ass, that are, unhappy about that.
Sometimes people just need to hear that there's other people who've had
And
bad
that's what it is.
divorces. That's it.
That's what it is. Like, everybody's got something fucked up in their life.
Yeah.
All right. I've been divorced. You've been divorced twice. My mother shot H for 15 years, and I love her to death. My sister won't talk to me because she's a cunt. Like, these are things that everybody else can identify with, but nobody wants to talk about because people put them in their back pocket of shame and they leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
They put it in the corner, and maybe if they talk about it, they do it with a shrink. And I feel like this is a lot healthier because you're not hiding anything from me. I'm not hiding anything from you. It's not like you're telling secrets to a shrink. I'm telling secrets to a shrink.
Well, and
then we pretend to be happy.
Participating people in society with successful jobs that when people do call in, we can be empathetic to.
Well, that's
because life happens.
Life does happen. And I think that at the end of the day, when we've done our last episode, maybe, I don't know how many years from now, the moral of this story simply has to be, making the best of your situation.
Mm-hmm.
And,
you got to move forward.
Certainly falling in love plays a huge part in that. But that's the ticky-tack easy part. Falling in love is the easy part. Making that love last and then building
be
something
successful?
from it.
Yeah, that's work.
This has been a really, a lot of work for you to maintain this relationship, huh?
Oh, because your ex-wife is super easy and fun?
Yeah.
Okay, that requires no work whatsoever.
None whatsoever. She's very laid back, laissez-faire.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it. We're going to wrap it up right now because, again, it's content for another episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to say that Easter was a success.
Yeah, it's a win-win. We got to do it again.
It's a win-win, and we won because we left our families somewhere else.
Well, you know what? We weren't invited either.
But the family that matters was here. You're my family.
Yep.
Your stepson, my son, Connor, he's our family. And, we had 3 members of our immediate family here. And the family that we invited over is in exactly the same boat. And we hang out with them so much that they sort of feel like family too. So it all worked out. And, Jesus is risen again, and Easter was a success, and that's it. Like, that's all you can do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that we did it, and I'm glad that I didn't poo-poo it, because in years past, knowing my personality, I would have said, I'm not.
Well, you almost poo-pooed it. I wouldn't let you poo-poo it. It's like you were banking everything. Well, what if my mom wants to come? What if this? What if that? And I'm like, we're doing it. We made a commitment that we're going to make plans. We're going to include our parents, and if they're able to come, awesome. If they're not able to come, okay. Like Heather outright yesterday asked me, like, when is your dad coming? And I was like, oh, he's not interested. And she was disappointed. But they would have totally embraced if our parents were able to come. But we can't make all of our plans around people that we know sometimes just aren't gonna care about the holiday as much as we do.
All right, that wraps up week 10 with Let's Chat with Kat and Pat. We'll be back next week for week 11. What we'll talk about, I don't know, but find us on Twitter at Kat and Pat Chat. Her name is Katrina Pateri. Have I missed anything, Katrina Pateri?
I haven't put anything on Twitter. I haven't had the time.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You haven't had the time.
Ball.
Drop the ball somewhere in between your 2 jobs and your wonderful mothering skills and pulling off a successful Easter.
The laundry's clean, the dishes are done, and the bills are paid.
And you look spectacular. And that's really all that matters. That wraps up week number 10. We'll catch you guys all back here next week. It'll be week number 11 with Let's Chat with Kat and Pat. In the meantime, if you like what you're listening to, please rate, subscribe, review. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, everywhere where your major podcasts are found. And at some point, this is going on YouTube. So the hoodie, I like the look. But I think our first show on YouTube, we might have to dress it up just a little bit.
We should totally dress for success.
Dress
for the job that you want, right?
And what job is this?
I don't know. Like, you're talking like,
professional
I don't know,
podcaster.
Can we go like Barstool, satellite radio? Who the heck knows? But like, let's at least look polished for it.
We'll be polished. Mm-hmm. That's it. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.